On Black Friday, my brothers and I decided to go video game shopping. Our first and only stop was Walmart, which was packed with people. As expected, the store had attracted a diverse crowd, including some peculiar individuals who seemed out of place. We made our way upstairs to the video game section, with me personally looking for the latest Call of Duty game, while my brothers searched for other titles. Amidst the chaos, a strange, heavy-set man with a nauseating odor approached me out of nowhere. "You like video games, huh?" he said, his voice unsettling. I immediately felt uncomfortable and began to subtly distance myself from him, hoping to convey my disinterest in conversation. However, he persisted, mentioning that his son also enjoyed video games and suggested that I come over to play with him sometime. His creepy smile sent shivers down my spine. Thinking on my feet, I quickly replied, "Oh, I'm not from around here. Sorry." I didn't give him a chance to continue the conversation. I smiled and called out to my brothers, pretending to be distracted as I walked away. Glancing back, I noticed that the man was still staring at me intently, which only increased my unease. Seeking solace, I joined my brothers in the next aisle over, feeling a sense of relief just being in their presence. We waited until they found their game, and then we made our way to the checkout counters. The lines were incredibly long, and I estimated it would take at least 10 to 15 minutes to reach the counters. I took advantage of the wait to browse the jeans and t-shirt sales. At one point, I found myself in a secluded corner of the store, engrossed in examining some t-shirts, when suddenly someone grabbed my arm forcefully. Assuming it was one of my brothers playing a prank, I turned around, ready to tell them off. However, to my horror, it wasn't my brother. It was the same man from earlier. Panic set in, and I began screaming for help, desperately signaling that I didn't know this man. Though some people glanced over, no one offered assistance. Eventually, the man released his grip and walked away. I couldn't fathom what he had intended or what he was thinking, attempting such a brazen act in a crowded public place. Overwhelmed with embarrassment, I chose not to divulge the incident to my brothers, but they sensed my unease from my sudden silence. Leaving the store, we headed towards my brother's Camaro. As I settled into the car seat, I glanced towards the entrance of Walmart, and there he was. The creepy man was sitting on a bench, positioned to face me directly as we drove past him. Even in the dimly lit night, his head subtly turned to maintain eye contact through the car window. Frustrated and enraged, I gave him the finger, but it seemed to have no effect on him. That was the last time I ever saw him. Walmart always seemed to attract a wide array of people, some of whom were undeniably strange. However, encountering that peculiar man on Black Friday was an experience I would never forget. In 2013, I made the impulsive decision to join the early morning Black Friday madness at Home Depot. They were offering incredible deals on artificial Christmas trees, so I wanted to snag one for my family. The store opened its doors at 3 a.m., 3 hours earlier than usual for the shopping frenzy. Surprisingly, there were only two of us waiting outside, myself and another Guy. It seemed like everyone else had flocked to Best Buy or the mall. After browsing through the store, I stumbled upon a beautiful 9-foot-tall artificial Christmas tree. Its original price was $200, but at that moment, it was on sale for only $100. Excited about the bargain, I asked one of the few employees working at that early hour to assist me in carrying the box to the checkout, and later to my car. To my surprise, the parking lot remained unusually empty for Black Friday. It made me realize that perhaps I didn't need to arrive so early. Regardless, I tipped the helpful employee and hopped into my car, ready to leave. However, just as I was about to drive away, I heard a knock on my window. Curious, I rolled it down and was met with the sight of a tall, black, beanie-wearing guy in his mid-20s. He leaned into my window and asked if I had any spare change. I checked the small compartment where I usually kept change, but it was empty. Not wanting to hand him a larger bill, I apologized and said I didn't have any change. He looked disappointed, and although I felt a pang of guilt, I decided to stick to my response. Just when I thought the encounter was over, he asked if I could give him a lift to the nearest gas station. Allowing a stranger into my car made me a bit nervous, but against my better judgment, I decided to help him out. Strangely, he didn't express any gratitude as he entered the car. That lack of thanks stung a little, given my sensitivity. I asked him if he knew of any nearby gas stations, to which he flatly replied, "Nah." It was as if he purposely ignored my question. As we continued driving down Main Street and various side roads, I scoured the surroundings for gas stations, but none seemed to appear. The whole situation was making me increasingly uncomfortable. I tried not to look at him, but I could sense his gaze fixed upon me. His relentless stare made me sweat, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I feared that at any moment he might lunge at me, choking the life out of me. Finally, I spotted a gas station just beyond a recently turned red traffic light. It had to turn red just now, I muttered to myself. Still, even as I avoided eye contact, I could feel his penetrating stare. Summoning my courage, I glanced over at him. His cold, emotionless gaze seemed to pierce through my eyes, reaching deep into my soul. Concerned, I asked if he was okay. He gave the slightest of nods, almost imperceptible. As I pulled into the gas station, he stepped out and positioned himself by the sidewalk, watching me intently as I drove away. However, my momentary relief soon turned to panic when I realized something crucial. I was missing my phone. I frantically patted myself down, realizing I had left it in the cup holder of my car. My phone contained all my personal information, and the thought of some stranger having access to it sent shivers down my spine. Contemplating whether to involve the police, I wrestled with fear and uncertainty. Eventually, I chose not to call them, but the anxiety kept me up all night. The following evening, after returning from a delayed Thanksgiving dinner that spanned 2 days, I discovered my front door ajar and my entire house in disarray. Fearing the worst, I dialed the police using my neighbor's phone. Although they didn't find the intruder instead, they did uncover his fingerprints scattered throughout my home. To my astonishment, the prints did not match anyone in their records. It was as if this person was a complete enigma. The incident left me shaken, and I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Knowing that someone had violated my home and potentially had access to my personal information haunted me. On Thanksgiving, I had a small gathering with half of my family and our next-door neighbors, Tom and his wife. Since they didn't have a large family, they often joined us to watch the game after dinner. While everyone settled in the living room to watch football, my daughters Tracy and Michelle, who weren't interested in the game, stayed in Michelle's room. Michelle was only 13 years old, and Tracy was 16 at the time. During halftime, I decided to go upstairs to Michelle's room and convince her to come down. After some persuasion, she finally agreed and followed me back to the living room. Some of the in-laws and I stepped outside for a smoke break, and I struck up a conversation with Tom about his son, Sam. Apparently, Sam had gone back home to watch movies alone after being with us earlier. Tom jokingly mentioned that Sam was probably just watching porn. As I left the group and glanced up at one of the windows of my house, I noticed someone looking out from Michelle's room. Confused, I wondered why Michelle had gone back to her room. But then it dawned on me that the person at the window wasn't Michelle. In fact, I had no idea who it was. Excusing myself, I hurried back inside and upstairs to Michelle's room, with Michelle following closely. Once in her room, I asked if someone had been there, but Michelle denied it. I scanned the room, but it was completely empty. I nudged Michelle to go downstairs while I turned off the lamp. We returned to the living room just as the game was about to start. However, I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was lying about being in Michelle's room. Suddenly, I heard a faint thud coming from upstairs, specifically from Michelle's room. Without hesitation, I sprinted back upstairs, with Michelle trailing behind. I switched on the lights and frantically looked around, trying to spot anyone. That's when I noticed the sliding closet door slightly ajar. It hadn't caught my attention before, but now I realized that I could see something through the crack. An eye. In a moment of terror, I screamed like a child for a couple of seconds. Michelle's relatives rushed into the room, and together we opened the closet door. To my shock, I found myself holding Sam, Tom's son, by the neck. He had some of my daughter's personal belongings that I'd rather not disclose. This incident not only scarred me, but also strained my friendship with Tom and his wife. It made me even more protective of my daughter, and as I realized the importance of ensuring her safety. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Please be sure to leave a like and let me know which story was your favorite one. And until next time, stay safe and keep watching Nightfall Chronicles.